Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and following the 3H's of the channel. And in this video, I got some really wild ones for you this week. So, pull up a stump and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. I'm a doctor from Mexico, and this happened in 2014 or 2015. Here in Mexico, when you finish med school, the government will send you to small towns to practice medicine for 1 year. Sometimes these little towns don't even have electricity or sewers or running water, so it can be pretty terrible conditions to work in. The place that they sent me to was a pretty okay place though. It wasn't that bad. It was a town between mountains, and the nearest city was 2 hours of distance. Some weird stuff happened there though. This few month stretch in particular, a string of people would come in because they were too weak and tired all the time. When I started to check them over, all of these people had 2 equidistant hematomas in a perfect circle, and it was in places that were hard to see, almost like someone tried to hide them, like behind the neck, behind legs, the lumbar zone of the spine. I make them all go into the city and take some blood exams, and all of them now have anemia despite never having it before. I always wondered if somebody was taking their blood. I'm unsure if it's related or not, but a lot of people in this community would always tell me about people that lived in the mountains that were not normal and that they were supposedly shapeshifters. In July 2004, near Gallup, New Mexico, I had my first and only encounter with a skinwalker. Before this, I used to say, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, I'm a believer now. What I saw was not fully human, nor fully animal. I was moving, and I had just completed the cleaning, and I was with my 10-year-old son. We had called it a night, and we were heading to our new place. As we walked out the front door, I saw a figure move from behind my neighbor's car to a nearby tree that stood between our apartments. It didn't have any red glowing eyes, no snarling teeth, no rotting smell, but it did move very quickly, but not quick enough to avoid the light from a nearby light post and the porch lights. It didn't look at me or come toward me. It moved as if it was trying to avoid being seen at all. I was within 15 feet of it, but I did not look back to fully inspect it. What I saw was a wolf-like animal that sort of resembled the Beast in The Beauty and the Beast, just not cartoonish, more terrifying. It had brown fur that completely covered it. It wasn't a pelt. It was a very large wolf, and it didn't have any human traits except that it walked on its hind legs. It cowered behind the tree as we got to our vehicle. When we got in, I asked my son, "Did you see that?" Thankfully, he didn't. My brother-in-law insists that it wasn't a skinwalker because I would have never seen it. To this day, I can picture what it looked like. I know they exist, and pray I never, ever encounter one again. This is something weird that happened to me and my crew when we were on night shift. It was 2010. I was going to college in the afternoons and working overnight at a fast food joint. I got promoted to manager pretty quickly. This was probably just due to the fact that I put in just the least amount of effort, which happened to be more than a lot of other people do. But my crew was cool guys. We got along very well. They just needed someone to glue us all together, I guess. But back to the story. We were open until 4 a.m., but we always died off at around 3. Someone had seen some horror movie at the time, and it became a joke that we lost all business because it was the witching hour. So, It was a random Tuesday night, 3 a.m., almost exact. I was on drive-thru, and as usual, business is all but gone. The beep-beep of the drive-thru goes off. Myself and the guy on the food line, who has a headset on, both look at each other. We have a surprised amusement on our faces. We say the typical greeting, evening and welcome to place. What do you want? There's no reply. I turn around to check the drive-thru camera. There's no one there. I think it must be a glitch in the sensor. There's still no answer, so I decide to go outside to check the sensor. There is in fact a vehicle there. It's a reddish-brown SUV. There's just one guy inside, but I can't make out his appearance. The headset begins buzzing with activity. I figure that it must have been some kind of camera malfunction. Weird stuff happens all the time with technology. So I say, "Hey bud, you alright?" There's no reply, not even a reaction. I don't approach the window of this car. I'm kind of freaked out for some reason. Then I say, "Hey, you can't just sit in the drive-thru. You have to order something, or I'll have to ask you to leave." What feels like an hour goes by, but eventually he drives off. The headset buzz dies down like usual. I go inside, really weirded out. The guy with the headset asks, "Hey cuz, who are you yelling at?" He must have heard me through the speaker, so at least the speaker works. I say, "That guy in the red car. Did you see what he looked like? What a freak, eh?" This guy looks at the other employee on the line. They're both confused. The guy without a headset responds, "Bro, nobody was there. You just stood there and yelled at nothing every now and then." We all sat there, weirded out for a bit. They kind of believed that I at least saw something. We kinda never talked about it again though. We decided to just leave it in that night. A long time ago, I had something weird happen while I was hiking the Pacific Crest National Scenic Trail, or PCT for short. I was headed south toward Crater Lake near Lake Maidu. As I cut across one of the other trails, a couple of Forest Service guys hike up from the east. One of them is clearly an LEO in full kit with an AR-10. The other guy isn't an LEO, but he's got a rucksack covered in smoke canisters and carrying a large saw with teeth that are an inch deep. They ask me how I am and if I've seen anything odd around. I say that I'm hiking the PCT, nothing weird really to note. I ask what's up. They say something about a problem bear near one of the upper lakes that they're chasing off with pepper grenades, and to watch out since I'm alone. I shrug and thank them for the info. I then keep hiking. I set up my camp a mile or so down the trail at just a bit after dark. Then I start to hear gunshots to my west. All night, every couple hours, I hear gunshots slowly circling along the west to the south. Of course, I don't get any sleep. A bit before dawn, I hear another volley of shots and a horrendous noise to the east. It sounds like a giant pig getting stuck and bleeding out slowly. The noise stops just a bit after dawn. I climb out of my tent and start packing. I start hiking south, and at some point, I become aware of a very bad smell. It smells like smoke and half-rotted meat coming from the south. The two Forest Service guys wander up from the east. The LEO's pack is significantly lighter. The guy with the saw has one smoke grenade left, and the saw is covered in some kind of black stuff. I ask what the hell's going on. The guy with the saw just gives me a shit-eating grin and says, "A bear." The LEO nods in affirmation and adds, "It was just a bear. Don't worry about it. It's gone now." They are giving 0 Fs about the smell or the black shit on the saw that looks like it's almost smoldering. They ask if I need anything and wish me luck on my hike. I couldn't get any good sleep for the rest of my trip. Weirdest thing of all, I didn't notice it until well after I got back, but someone stole my camera when I was out there. I was spending a month with my cousins at my grandma's house. It was August, and my cousins' ages ranged from 10 to 15. I was the oldest, being 15. I was staying with a 10, 13, and 14-year-old. We stayed up, telling scary stories often, but one night, a few weeks in, we decided to make a campfire out back. My grandma's house is in a rural suburb. The neighbors aren't too far when you're driving down the road to her house, but in her backyard, it's a thick forest with man-made paths all through it. Each house is on a hill, so only part of the basement was actually underground. That isn't that important until later though. So we're toward the east side of her yard and a small patch of open land. You couldn't see the neighboring yards from there. There was probably a 3/4 mile to each side of us that belonged to my grandma. It was maybe 11 at night, and we were playing truth or dare after telling scary stories. And my 14-year-old cousin dared me and the 13-year-old to go walk through the paths for 10 minutes or so. I said yes right away, as I wasn't easily scared and rather level-headed. But my younger cousin was a bit more hesitant. We didn't bring a flashlight because it wasn't pitch dark yet, and we could see enough not to die. We were walking through the paths for about 5 minutes and could barely see the fire through the trees when we decided to turn. In the middle of the path was a large, dog-like creature, hunched over with its front hands an inch from the ground. What I remember most is how its eyes were so bright white, and it was a humanoid dog-shaped with a human-like head, but a dog-like body, but human hands and feet. It looked right at us, and I know I was paralyzed with fear as it dashed away in the opposite direction from us, towards a creek that ran through the yard. Eventually, we come to, and my cousin screams like bloody murder, and the other cousins and my grandma run to us. I don't remember much here because, for some reason, I felt really disoriented and I couldn't think properly. But I did wake up in bed, so I assumed that I was brought up to the house. All the kids slept in the basement in a big room with sliding glass doors to the outside. As the room was on the side that wasn't underground, my bed was pressed against a big glass window, and I could see my cousins playing outside down below. The house is in Michigan, so it gets slightly chilly even in the end of August, and there was a slight breeze, so I put on a jacket and ran to join them outside, skipping breakfast, not wanting to miss out on anything fun. When I got down, I could tell they weren't playing, but rather running to get my grandma. Her dogs, both of them, were dead. They had been ripped to pieces. That night, we went to bed early. I woke up at maybe 2 in the morning because I felt something hit my head. My cousins were all sitting on the double bed opposite me on the other side of the room. There was 1 bunk bed and 2 double beds. The double beds were for me and my 14-year-old cousin. They were being quiet and staring at me. The 13-year-old nodded his head toward the window. I froze. They all looked afraid. I turned my head slightly to the side, and I saw a really messed up looking face pressed to the window with gaping eyes looking down at me. I screamed so loud, and it bolted. My grandma called the police after I told her what happened, but they found nothing. I went home after that, and I've never been there overnight ever again. So I'm from Germany, and we have tales about doppelgangers. I don't know if it's the same as some of the stuff you guys have in the US, but it sounds pretty much just like it. Anyways, I live in South Germany. I live near a forest called Schwarzwald. I've been camping there since childhood with friends and their families, usually annually or every second year. Now, here and there, I remember our parents being kind of worried about something, but it was never something big. Sometimes there were weird voices in the forest, but hey, it's not a city after all. Now, when this happened, I was 21, and we still go camping there, nowadays, just without our parents though. Now, the other year, 2013, I had a very creepy encounter that I want to tell you about. So we went to our usual camping site. I was there with 4 buddies. We set up our camps on pretty much the same place as the other year. All of us are pretty pumped because everyone's always looking forward to this event. We celebrate the first night of the campfire with alcohol. One buddy stumbles away to take a pee or do his business. He's one of those guys that can't pee with others around, so he steps into the woods. He comes back talking about another campfire. We laugh at him and assume that he just saw ours from afar and we're all drunk. We blame it on the alcohol, and this is enough to convince him as well. Eventually, we take care of the fire and we go to sleep hammered. A wonderful morning with a headache follows a peaceful night. We enjoy our stay and go swimming in a river nearby. We get back to camp, and one of our friends hurries out of his tent. Somebody has gone through his backpack. His stuff is spread out all over his sleeping bag. His shirt and phone are missing. I go to check my tent and find my backpack emptied as well. All of us are alarmed and we assume that a thief is nearby. Everyone searches for their valuable goods, such as expensive lights, money, and phones. Everything's there. Only my friend's shirt and phone are missing. We decide to look for traces of footprints, and after some searching, we find a trail in the coal leading into the woods. They're not boot prints, but actual bare feet. All of us decide not to stay there, and we pack our stuff. We take some time to get our equipment back in our cars. Suddenly, another friend's phone starts to ring. He says, "Guys, you should come and see this." We run up to him to see that the stolen phone is calling him. The robbed friend gets angry, takes the phone and answers. "Listen, this isn't funny, you." He stops talking abruptly. He goes pale as a ghost. He turns on the speaker. Someone is talking slowly like a mad baby, but it's in the voice of our friend's dad. Everyone is stunned, scared, and puzzled all at the same time. The bravest one of us snaps out of it, takes the phone, and shouts at whoever's imitating his dad. The dad hangs up. We stand in dead silence all over the camping site. One of the braver people suggests calling the number back to try and find where the phone is and get the phone back. Everyone is still kind of stunned, so nobody stops him, and he starts dialing. We hear it ringing in the forest. The ringing is coming nearer. We get together, grabbing knives and shovels. We see a shadow standing in the forest. The friend's dad calls out to us. He comes out and looking just like him, but only wearing the stolen shirt and nothing else. He opens his mouth, and out comes this gibberish again. We charge at him with our weapons, and he runs into the forest screaming like a madman. We decide to stay together and follow him. He runs toward an open field with a dead fireplace. He drops the phone and vanishes behind a bunch of trees. We pick up the phone and then look around and see other shadows coming from his direction. There's 8 in total, all trying to form words. I now hear my parents' voice. Now, fear begins to rule our minds. We turn and run back to our camp, get in our cars, and just hurry the hell out of there while calling the police. After we got back, we talked to our parents about it. They panicked and told us that on some of the pictures, you can see shades watching from the woods. They'd also see someone in 2 places at the same time, although that's not possible. Until that day, they put it up as BS, but now that changed. Some of us are in therapy. Nobody believes us. We don't go camping there anymore. We prefer to get together at one of our friends' houses. So I hope you enjoyed those and found them scary like I did. And if you did, then be sure to let me know which one was your favorite one down in the comments. And also, of course, any video ideas that you'd like to see a video on maybe. And if you would like to support the channel, then you can donate to the PayPal or Patreon if you'd like to. And there's super thanks here on YouTube as well. And of course, just watching the video is great too. And with that, I think I will see you in the next one. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching.